Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is episode number 6 of the water cycle and water insecurity unit over here on my channel. Today we're going to be looking at surpluses in the hydrological system. So if this is what you're here for, that's great. Stick around, subscribe down below so that you don't miss the next video in this series. I upload one every Monday at 4:30 p.m. and yeah, I'm going through the whole A-level geography specification. So I hope you enjoy. Please do subscribe down below as I say, and let's just get straight on into this. A recurring deluge. The northwest of the UK is familiar with heavy rain. The combination of warm, wet, westerly winds plus uplands such as the Cumbrian Fells creates orographic rainfall. As a result, places in Cumbria are the wettest in England. Seathwaite, for example, averages over 2 metres of rainfall every year. Places such as this should be prepared for flooding. Nevertheless, it was still surprising when it occurred twice in a decade, 2005 and 2009. However, when it occurred for a third time in 2015, that suggested that something unusual was happening within the local hydrological system. Storm Desmond. Storm Desmond hit Cumbria in December 2015. It was caused by the Atlantic low pressure system. Associated fronts stretched across northern Britain, bringing prolonged and heavy rainfall through a mechanism known as a warm conveyor. In December 2015, Storm Desmond brought record-breaking rainfall to Cumbria. On the 5th of December, Honister Pass recorded 341.4 millimetres of rainfall in just 24 hours. 405 millimetres of rainfall fell at Thermere in 38 hours. 5,200 homes were flooded. Major roads and rail services were disrupted for several days. A landslide closed a section of the West Coast Main Line between Preston and Carlisle, and 61,000 homes lost power when an electrical substation was flooded. What caused the flooding? Storm Desmond caused major disruption, with the greatest impacts due to flooding. Carlisle was worst hit by severe flooding from River Eden. The December flooding was worsened by the already saturated ground conditions across northwest England and North Wales. November 2015 had been the wettest November since 1910. Only November 2009 was wetter. One theory that helps to explain long periods of wet weather in 2005, 2009 and 2015, of which all caused flooding in Cumbria, is the position of the jet stream. Jet streams are the driving force which determine the direction of depressions and their speed of movement. This band of fast-moving air moves north and south, but it remained over the northwest for longer than usual, bringing in rain-laden depressions from across the Atlantic. Some other causes of flooding: storms and flash flooding. Occasionally, dramatic floods occur following intense torrential storms. These are called flash floods, and are often associated in the UK with extreme rainfall events in the summer months. The intensity of the rainfall exceeds the capacity of the river to cope with the amount of water, and flooding results. In September 2016, flash flooding caused travel chaos in parts of England as thunderstorms deposited almost half a month's worth of rain in some places within hours. Monsoon rainfall. This occurs across South and Southeast Asia between May and September. In July 2016, heavy monsoon rains in the Philippines led to flooding, landslides and evacuations in villages just to the northwest of the capital Manila. Monsoon rains are often heavy, but in this case a larger than normal low pressure system brought heavier rain than usual. Snowmelt. Flooding can occur when snow melts and the resulting water cannot infiltrate into the soil or ground surface. In the winter of 2013, Norfolk police reported flooding caused by melting snow and ice after a very mild, wet and windy weather caused by rapid thawing. The combination of heavy rain and thaw brought flooding in some places, exacerbating the flood risk. Changing land use. Farmers not only produce food, they also manage and maintain the landscape. However, some people argue that not all farmers' actions are positive. For example, the environmentalist George Monibot refers to the Cumbrian landscape as sheep-wrecked uplands, and he suggests that farmers often make matters worse. Overgrazing by sheep means that bare slopes now replace forests. Previously, trees absorbed and slowly released water. Meandering channels slowed the flow, and bogs held back water. Now we have bare and drier soils, straightened and dredged channels, faster runoff, reduced stream lag times, and higher discharge peaks. Rainwater now reaches floodplains quicker, and it's on many floodplains that we now increasingly find impermeable surfaces as urban areas expand. If you add in unusually high levels of rainfall, flooding may now be inevitable. Mismanaging rivers. Before 2005, a combination of raised riverbanks, pumping stations and diversion channels carried surplus water away from built-up areas in Cumbria. These hard engineering schemes are common in Cumbria and were reinforced after the 2005 floods. The design of these schemes is based on the flood return period, a statistical estimate of how often a flood of a certain magnitude is likely to occur, based on past flood levels. However, we don't always get it right. It is now reasonable to expect that, given climate change and further change in land use, we will face more extreme storms and flooding, so many small-scale flood protection schemes may be overwhelmed. Mitigating the flood risk. The Environment Agency now believes that hard engineering schemes are not the solution to flooding. They are very expensive and, as in Cumbria, often can't cope with the most extreme flooding. Instead, Environment Agency thinks that soft engineering solutions are the way forward, including the reforestation of upland areas to reduce rapid surface runoff, restoration of river channels to their natural meandering states, restoration of floodplains to their natural absorbent states to store floodwater, and the refusal of planning permission to build or expand developments near rivers. Long-term impacts of flooding. Despite the flooding in 2005 and 2009, the scales of the 2015 Cumbrian floods caught people unawares, and the economic depression, although short-lived, was significant. In Carlisle, the United Biscuits factory, the city's biggest employer, closed for weeks before eventually reopening with a smaller workforce. By 2015, the new Turkish owners were forced to reconsider the factory's future in this high-risk area. When floods such as those in 2005, 2009 and 2015 hit 3 times in such a short period, it becomes inevitable that investors, residents and businesses will reevaluate their longer-term plans. Increased flooding in the UK is forcing key players to weigh up their costs and benefits of staying where they are, and is also challenging communities to reassess the flood threat in their surroundings. The costs of Cumbria's flooding. The social costs. 3,000 homes were flooded in 2005 and over 5,200 in 2015. Some residents of those properties had to live in temporary accommodation. Some local services, such as schools, healthcare, shops and offices, were forced to close temporarily, and many residents suffered anxiety, stress and psychological trauma. Economic costs. Many businesses closed and transport and infrastructure were damaged. The cost of the flooding in Cumbria was 100 million in 2015, 270 million in 2009, and between 4 and 500 million in 2015. Insurance claims caused by flooding across the UK in 2015 exceeded £6 billion. Farmers lost hedgerows and expensive dry stone walls were washed away. Many sheep also drowned. House prices fell in flood risk areas, and the risk of repeated flooding deterred tourists from visiting. Environmental costs. Many riverbanks were eroded, which added to future flood risks. Rivers were choked with debris and contaminated with sewage and pollutants. Soils were eroded, habitats destroyed and ecosystems affected. The saturated ground led to the decomposition of plants and animals, giving off noxious gases such as hydrogen sulfide. Other poisons contaminated the food chain and threatened wildlife. The saturated ground also led to landslides. And that is the end of episode 6 of this series. I hope you learned something. Please do subscribe down below as I'm uploading the next one next week. Next week we are going to be looking at climate change, so stick around, subscribe down below, and I will see you then. Bye guys.